story, real story. One of my clients that I work with, she had gotten so used to avoiding the floor that one day when she had gotten down there to do something, she was grabbing something or whatever, and she kind of just paused and she realized, dang, now how exactly am I gonna get up from here? And so there, while she was down there on this floor, coming up with a whole mission statement on how she's gonna get up off of the floor, as she starts to work her way through this, she got one hand on the chair, one knee down, doing a little rocking motion to help her get up there and saying a quiet prayer. This is the thing she's sharing with me on to get her off of this floor. And if I bet if somebody had walked in there on her, in that moment, they probably would have thought that she was probably either doing a new type of workout, praying, or just negotiating with gravity or whatever. But we can laugh about that now, her and I. But what started off as something so simple turned into a very honest reminder that her body had gotten used to avoiding that position. This individual, she's not a lazy person. She's really a go get after it individual. She wasn't weak necessarily, and she definitely was. She's not old. She had just slowly gotten used to avoiding certain movements that felt either awkward or just uncertain, or she was just uncomfortable with getting into. And so that's what I want to talk about today, the hidden cost of comfortable movement. The hidden cost of comfortable movement. So, peace, love, light, and healing. I'm Nariah, the owner of Iron City Biomechanics, and we help bridge the gap between healthcare and fitness. And one of the things I see all the time is this. I have I work with men and women folk, but primarily women. And so, you know, you can have a woman who's still doing life. She's working, taking care of her family, taking care of the people. In her life, she's still managing all of her responsibilities, still trying to keep everything moving. But somewhere along the way, as she's serving other people, she starts making small edits to how she's moving. She stops getting down on the floor. No, because like I said earlier, it feels maybe awkward. She avoids taking the stairs whenever she can. She starts reaching around discomfort instead of, through it for better movement. She starts choosing, the chair that's easiest to get out of. It sits up a little higher. She starts moving, more cautiously than she used to. And none of those things seems dramatic. In fact, a person probably is like, that's pretty smart and logical. It feels reasonable, something reasonable, something that anyone should do. Those things are again comfortable, but that in lies the trap, ladies and gentlemen, because comfortable movement, is not always healthy movement. Just because it's comfortable does not mean it's healthy. And you can take that in an array of different, topics. A lot of people think if something feels easier, it just means that it's better for them. But the body doesn't always define comfort the same way that we define function. The body often defines comfort as familiar. So, what have I done before? Have I done these things before? Predictable and less demanding. So, if you've spent years shifting your weight a certain way, moving around stiffness, avoiding certain positions, bracing your body, or just using the same safe patterns over and over and over again, then those patterns can start to feel normal. And I've spoke about this in other videos and other blogs as well, but those things can feel very normal, they can feel comfortable, but practiced and healthy are not the same thing. I'll say that again. Just because you practice something for a majority of your life does not mean that it is healthy. A compensation can feel smooth, A workaround can feel normal, and an avoidance to certain patterns can feel like it's a smart thing to do. That doesn't mean it isn't costing you something. And that's the part that most people, I believe, miss. They believe that comfort can help their longevity, but that's just not how it works, honestly. Comfort can actually quietly shrink your life. Maybe not all at once, because just life doesn't work that way, but a little bit at a time. Our habits, lifestyle, to doing people start doing things where they stop kneeling, you stop getting down on the floor, you stop trusting on uneven grounds that you're on, you stop reaching overhead naturally. People that they stop moving in certain ways that really feel less certain for them. And over time, as you continue to do that, the body gets the message. It's like, no, we don't need that anymore. We don't need to do these things anymore. And that is how range of motion is lost. That's how your flexibility is lost. That's how your confidence starts to drop in certain movements. This is how daily life starts taking more energy than it should. And so I'm real big, and I love reading research that helps correlate with what I'm talking about. But research on aging and movement, it keeps showing us the same things over and over. At least when I'm reading it, anyways. But the body responds to demand. If you keep asking it for strength, balance, coordination, a range of motion, it has a reason to maintain those things. If you keep removing that demand and only moving in the easiest of ways, the safest ways, the narrowest ways possible, then the body starts scaling those capabilities down. And so that's why you lose the ability to do certain things, not because of aging or anything of that nature. And so that's why reduced movement variability matters so much. If your body only lives in a small box of comfortable movement, eventually that box becomes your new normal. And I think this matters, especially for women, men and women over the age of 40, because this is often the reason where life is just full of demands. You know, the body starts giving more feedback as we do get older. And so you may not think of yourself as inactive. You know, you may still be busy every day, moving around, going to work, doing all the things that you need to do. But being busy and moving well are not always the same thing. You can move a whole bunch and be inefficient at it. And so the question that I think, is that are you still going to be able to do what you would like to do as you start to get more seasoned in life? Are you still going to use the capacities you want to be able to keep? Because if not, it will start letting your body will innately start letting them go. It's like it's not using it. She's not using it. He's not using it. Not necessarily as a form of punishment, because the body is very. I've said this before. The body is very efficient. And so in my realm of fitness, in terms of biomechanics, this is why this matters so much in biomechanics. Sometimes the movement that feels more comfortable is actually the movement pattern that is high the most compensations. So if you start to shift around tight, having maybe your low back is doing work that your hips should be doing. Maybe one knee is paying the price for a foot that isn't loading well. Maybe your shoulders and your neck are helping you breathe because your rib cage and your trunk aren't moving all that well. The compensation that may these compensations may feel easier in the short term, but in the long term, it usually sends you a bill down the line. as you continue to rack up debt, if you will. Poor movement debt. That's a good one. I should coin that. Poor movement debt. That bill, it might show up as pain, fatigue, stiffness, instability or balance issues, or just the feeling that your body is getting smaller. So, what do we do? What do you do? What do you do? First off, you have to stop assuming that comfortable automatically means that it's good. Comfortable does not mean good. All right. Secondly, we gotta get honest about what movements you've quietly stopped doing. What aren't you doing anymore based off of the symptoms that you now have? Can you still get down on the floor? Can you still rotate well through your spine? Can you still trust your balance? Are you able to put on your pants without having to hold on to something? Can you still move with confidence instead of always choosing the easiest workaround? That's the second thing. So thirdly, the third thing is start rebuilding the patterns that are keeping your life open. Do the things that are going to make you more flexible and keep that range of motion. Not with random intensity, not with these punishing, grueling workouts or boot camps or whatever, but with better movement, better posture, better gait, better strength, better breathing. That is what I believe is how the body gets those options back versus, wearing yourself down and to where you got to pay that bill later. Because at the end of the day, this isn't really about whether movement feels comfortable right now. It's about whether the way you're moving today is preserving the life that you want later. So you're ultimately the things you do and don't do today affect your tomorrow. And so that's the real question. Those are the real questions, not what feels easier. What's the easiest thing for me to do? Because I know we chase comfort a lot of times. And so that shouldn't be the question, but the question should be is what kind of movement keeps my world from getting smaller so that I can do all the things that I want to continue to do as I continue to get more seasoned. And so, as always, if this resonates with you, I wrote a whole blog about this where I go a lot deeper into what I'm talking about here in this video. And so, if you started noticing that your body is getting a little too comfortable with caution, compensation, or just avoiding certain movements, the next best step is to schedule a movement assessment. That's where we look at what patterns have become normal for you, what options you may be losing, and what needs to be rebuilt so that your body does support your life instead of shrinking it. And again, I'm Nariah, and always move better so that you can live strong.